In today's video, I'm going to talk about why whole fruit beats fruit juice every single time. We're going to give you 3 reasons. For those of you who are seeing me for the first time, I'm Dr. Amina Goodwin. I'm a physician and a health coach, and I help you to figure out how to eat better so that you can feel better and need the healthcare system less. That equals freedom. Okay, we're going to dive right into it. So I remember back in the day, I loved juice. And in fact, I never drank water. And those closest to me thought it was so strange. How can a doctor never drink water? Like, that doesn't make any sense. They were so alarmed and even concerned. And my husband was telling me just the other day that he was so relieved when I started drinking water. And now I have come from a person who never drank water to now only drinking water, more or less. Before, I would have all the juices thinking that, oh, it's fruit juice, it says 100% fruit juice, so obviously it's okay. No. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why it's not okay. So reason number 1, excuse me, whole fruit comes with not just juice, but a lot of other things. The most important one being fiber. Whole fruit comes with fiber. Of course, a lot of nutrients as well in their naturally occurring form. But most importantly is the fiber. Fiber in whole fruit is so important because of several reasons. Number 1, the presence of fiber with the sugar, the naturally occurring sugar in the fruit, slows down the digestion, excuse me, and absorption of that sugar in the fruit. So whereas with juice, you will get this rapid spike in blood glucose levels, with the fruit, because of that fiber and the time it takes to chew and break it down and so on, you're going to have a more slow release of glucose into your bloodstream. And because it's a more slow, gradual release, it means that your liver has enough time to metabolize it, process it, and your body has time with all the functions that are going on at all times, excuse me, to use this slowly released form of glucose. And so you're not needing to store as much as if all at once you got this rush of glucose and it was too much for you to immediately use, so you had to store it, right? So that fiber helps to slow or moderate the release of glucose into your blood system. So it's a nice, measured, more steady state situation, right? Another thing with fiber is that it is actually, even though the insoluble fiber and even soluble fiber as well, I mean, fiber is not going to get absorbed, but fiber is food for the good bacteria in your intestines. So when we eat, we feed ourselves, we feed our bodies, but we also feed the trillions of bacteria in the intestines. And we have, excuse me, a mix of all sorts of different types of bacteria. And depending on how we eat, we might have a predominance of bad bacteria or a predominance of good bacteria. So obviously, we want a predominance of good bacteria. And the more good bacteria we have, the more we crowd out the bad bacteria. Now, when we eat our food, if you eat more food that bad bacteria like, it means that you're going to have predominance of bad bacteria. That's what the bad food selects for, so that's what's going to thrive. If you eat more of the foods that the good bacteria like, then the good bacteria will thrive and crowd out the bad bacteria. Fiber is one of those things that the good bacteria like. So the more fiber you eat, the more the good bacteria, they're happy and they're thriving. And when you have the good bacteria thriving, they crowd out the bad ones. And so you don't have this imbalance, excuse me, which actually promotes ill health. Okay. Good thing about fiber too is that the bacteria breaks down the fiber, and there are different chemical reactions that occur in the gut with the production of chemicals that actually promote well-being, promote good mood, help to regulate insulin levels, help to moderate or keep down inflammation. So a whole host of benefits of having a predominance of good bacteria in our intestines. Excuse me. Right? Another thing with fiber as well is that it actually promotes satiety. So if you're having a fiber-rich meal, and it's several reasons. One of them is because you have a more stable blood glucose level rather than these high peaks, which are invariably followed by these lows. You're not going to have cravings soon after eating. You will stay satisfied for longer after the meal. And so you'll find yourself not eating as frequently if you're having a fiber-rich meal. meal. So fiber promotes satiety and allows you to stay longer without food. And the longer you stay without food, the longer you stay in fat burning mode as opposed to being in fat storage mode all the time, because you're eating every 2 hours or so. Okay, so the fiber in the whole fruit is very beneficial for those 3 reasons, especially that I mentioned. Now, the second thing about juice to consider, right, or the negative about juice is that it just has too much sugar. So even 100% juice, even though it says 100% juice, no added sugar, which, like I said, I used to think, oh, that's fine, it's natural, there's no added sugar and so on. But a juice, like that is a concentrate. Basically, 100% juice is a concentrated form of sugar. It's an unnatural form of sugar. It's an unnaturally large amount of sugar all at once. If we're eating the whole fruit, we'll probably eat 1 apple. We might eat 2 apples depending on the size, but usually we're not going to eat more than 2 apples. A bottle of apple juice, that used to be my favorite because it was so nice and tangy with the sweetness. A bottle of apple juice is going to be several apples. And so that's going to be generally a bottle of apple juice would be 38 or so, maybe say round it off to 40 grams of sugar. 40 grams of sugar is the same as 10 teaspoons of sugar, because every 4 grams of sugar is equal to 1 teaspoon. So guess what? The recommended daily allowance for, added sugar is 6 teaspoons. 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day maximum we should all aim to have, whether or not we're diabetic. Now, yes, you're saying, well, the juice, it's like no added sugar, but like I just said, it's unnatural to eat 6-8 apples all at once. That's an unnatural consumption of that amount of sugar all at once. And then you're having 10 teaspoons of sugar all at once, and you're having it without the fiber. So all that sugar is rapidly absorbed into your system, and it's overwhelming your system because it's too much too soon. And that is why fruit juices are really, even though, yes, it's 100% natural, no added sugar, it is doing a negative number on your body, especially where blood glucose is concerned, because you're going to have your body going into fat storage mode. Another thing about the juices as well, a lot of them they're fruit juices, but you really have to get into the habit of looking at your labels, because a lot of them will say fruit juice, organic, 100% natural, but when you look at the label, you will see that it has only 15% juice and that there is sugar added. And a lot of times too, labels will say organic cane sugar, like they'll list the ingredients and it'll have organic and non-GMO and all the fancy things, gluten-free, even though we know that like fruits are not, gluten is not a food with gluten, right? Gluten is from wheat and some other things, right? But anyway, they'll have all the fancy labels to get us to think, oh, this is good, this is healthy, USDA, organic, and so on. But you flip the label and you see sugar, yeah, organic sugar, but it's like 40 grams of sugar or even more. I mean, I've seen some like smoothies and so on, 100% natural, and they have like 56 grams of sugar total, with much of that being added sugar, right? So you really have to be very careful, because even though it's all natural and organic and ticks all the boxes, it is an unnaturally concentrated form of sugar that the body was not meant to have. Okay, now saying all that to say, the third thing about fruit juice versus sugar, and why the whole fruit trumps or beats the fruit juice every time, is because the whole thing about having this concentrated form of sugar so much so quickly is that it promotes the development of metabolic syndrome. Why? Sugar, essentially glucose, well, table sugar, that's sucrose, that's half and half, fructose and glucose. Now, whenever the blood glucose levels go up, insulin goes up. Whenever insulin goes up, it tells the body, okay, we need to store fat. We need to convert whatever glucose, this excess glucose, into fat. It's not converted to starch, it's converted to fat. Now, I mean, some of it is converted to glycogen in the liver and in the muscle, but just a little bit. And if you're having large amounts from the juice, then that's, you're going to quickly saturate the glycogen stores, and the excess will get stored as fat. Now, every time you trigger insulin, the body is like, let's do something, let's get glucose levels down. But if you keep triggering insulin, eventually the insulin stays up all the time because the body's like, oh my goodness, like we're getting bombarded too much by insulin. And so the insulin stops working, but then the blood sugar is you're still getting in that blood sugar because you're drinking lots of juice. Like I was drinking juice constantly throughout it. I always had a bottle of juice in my pocket, my lab coat pocket, right? And so you're constantly producing insulin, but the body's saying, okay, we've had enough of insulin. And so it tries to block it out. And that is how insulin resistance arises. And as insulin resistance worsens, you get diseases like type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome, on all these conditions that are associated with insulin resistance, high blood pressure, gout, all these things. And for that reason, having juice is much worse than having fruit, the whole fruit, because juice is an abnormally or unnaturally concentrated form of sugar coming at you too much too soon. Okay, so choose the fruit. Like some people say, it's better to what is the saying, something to the effect that it's better to eat your fruit rather than to drink your fruit, something like, I think I'm botching that, but essentially eat the fruit, drink the water. Eat the fruit, drink the water. That's best for your body overall, and that promotes health. Okay, so whole fruit trumps the fruit juice every single time because of the fiber that's in the fruit juice. I didn't mention minerals and fat sometimes in these fruit juices because they pasteurize. Some of the mineral and vitamin content actually gets lost in the pasteurization process, right? But anyway, and then also the whole negative metabolic impact. So I hope you all found this video helpful. If you did, definitely subscribe to my channel so that we can reach more people, and also that you will be notified every time new videos are uploaded. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.